Okay, hello Bio 2. We're going to finish up Amphibians today and finish up actually chapter 30 today. So it's going to be a short video and we're just going to look at what are our three main groups of living amphibians today. So the three groups of amphibians that are alive today are salamanders, frogs and toads, which we have mentioned before, and our last group is kind of a really more obscure group. They're nowhere near us. They're found only in tropical parts of the world, and those are called caecilians. So those are three groups of amphibians that are alive today. So salamanders are our first one. So another kind of relative of the salamanders are what are called newts, which are very similar, and they have long bodies and tails, and again they look very similar to a lizard. Most of them will only have 4 legs, but there are some examples that actually have no legs and that they are permanently bound to water. They actually never come out. And then both adults and the larvae are carnivores, so they eat meat their entire life. And adults usually live in moist woods where they can tunnel under rocks and rotting logs, and that's where a lot of them are living at right now, kind of in almost a hibernation-like state. And again, once it starts raining around the springtime and it gets warm, that's when they start coming out, and that's when you'll see this group a lot around here. So that's our first group, is the salamanders. So our second group, the frogs and the toads, probably the most famous group of the amphibians. And what really sets them apart is they have the ability to jump. And in class, actually, one person asked me what the difference between a frog and a toad is. So here's one main difference is going to be right here, is that frogs tend to have longer legs that help them make lengthy jumps, whereas toads have relatively short legs and they're limited to short hops. So that's one of the first differences between them, is that frogs have longer legs which enable them to jump longer distances, compared to toads, they have short legs and they're limited to kind of short hops. And then another difference is that frogs are generally more closely tied to water than toads. So what that means is that toads, obviously they all have a tadpole stage where they're again swimming around in the water, but once they make it past that, there's some toads that really don't need to stay around water for the rest of their life, whereas frogs, they almost always have to have a source of water. And toads can often live in moist woods, so again that's an area where they would still have water. However, they can also be found in desert-like areas as well. So toads and frogs' main differences are the size of their legs, the fact that frogs are actually generally more closely tied to water than toads. So our last group of amphibians are a group called the caecilians, and caecilians are legless animals that live in water, or they burrow in moist soil or sediment, and they actually look almost identical to just like a large earthworm is what this group looks like. They look like a large earthworm. And caecilians will feed on small invertebrates such as termites, so that's one of their main food sources. And also they have fish-like scales that are embedded in their skin, so they're really kind of an odd-looking creature. So that is it for chapter 30 in our amphibians, so let me know if you have any questions.